What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner, and joining me from John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Virginia, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. AJ, look like you got the cleanup crew behind you right now. I mean, that's a typical three things for you right there. There's always somebody trying to ruin our video.
They weren't nearby until 20 seconds ago.
There's always somebody trying to do it. I mean, we can't get away from it, but it's all good.
I still think the fist fight in the upper deck at Keenan Stadium after a football game is the best.
That was great between the cleanup crew. Yeah, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. I can't remember if we were recording when that happened.
Yeah, we had to stop.
Yeah, I think we had to restart almost because there was a brawl in the not a brawl, but there was a fight in the upper deck. We got stories, man. We'll have to do a podcast just talking about that. We could
probably listen into what these guys are saying. It seems like they're pretty loud.
I can hear you good enough. We'll power through this again. We've had worse audio on these before.
So Vantage Point. We like to do the Vantage Point.
Yeah, check it out. Yep.
Championship banner up there somewhere.
It's a nice arena.
The tunnel.
Really nice arena.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great facility.
Seats about, what, 15,000, I think? But that's...
Yeah, just under 50, around 15. I got beautiful logo at center court. I like it here. It's good atmosphere. I just think that these people probably would like to cheer a little bit more often for made baskets.
Yeah, and I mean, AJ, we talk about John Paul Jones Arena.
It's funny, but okay, so they hit free throws in the first half today, and it sounded like an alley-oop dunk in transition, the reaction from the crowd. I'm dead serious. I'm not kidding. It was, I've never heard of 10 minutes left in the first half or 6 minutes left in the first half, a free throw, and the place going nuts.
They were abysmal offensively, particularly in
UVA,
that. I mean,
little kids who are UVA fans, that they practice, like they emulate free throws. But they miss a lot of free throws, actually. The worst free throw shooting team in the league. I
know, man. They are just abysmal offensively. And again, they weren't very good offensively tonight. And we talk about John Paul Jones Arena. They just gave a little quick tour, AJ, and it is notoriously a place that Carolina has struggled over the last 12 years in particular. But finally snapping that streak today in Charlottesville, 54-44 win over UVA. Carolina improving to 21-6, 13-3 on the year, and also with the Duke result, taking a game and a half lead over Duke in the conference right now, and obviously going a few games ahead of UVA with that win, who's dropping off a little bit in the race for first. But going through some stats, and we'll dive into it. Cormac Ryan leading the way. We're going to talk more about him in a second. 18 points, big game from him. RJ Davis, 12 points. Armando Bacot, double-double with 10 and 13. Harrison Ingram, quiet offensively, didn't take a lot of shots, but 7 points and 10 boards. Always finds a way to collect rebounds for North Carolina. But only one way to start. I was actually watching the game with my dad earlier today, and I told him in the second half, I said, if Carolina wins this game, I know one of our three things takeaway is going to be Cormac Ryan, and that's exactly where we're starting with this one. 18 points, like I mentioned, 15 of those coming in the first half was absolutely huge. 6 for 11 for 3 on the game, and for me, he was the difference maker. I mean, you look at that 10-point win. He has 18 of those points, leading scorer for North Carolina today. I think without his productivity from 3 today, this could be a completely different ball game. But man, was he absolutely fantastic in that first half in particular.
He gave the Tar Heels separation and kind of put UVA in catch-up mode pretty much the whole game. And let's face it, the rest of the Heels weren't hitting. When Armando missed the last 12:39 in the first half, when he picked up his second foul, Hubert was wise to keep him on the bench because they had the lead. And Jalen Washington and Jalen Withers gave him good minutes. And RJ didn't score in the first half. He didn't hit field goal. Yeah, his first points came about 3 minutes into the second half. So I think outside of Cormac, the rest of the team was like 5 for 18 or something like that. They only hit 6 shots in the second half. Carolina shot 23%, I think it was in the second half. So Cormac's threes were huge. Those were like, a bunch of 3-run home runs in a game. That you get them like, wow, that is a 3-pointer that has a greater effect than just a 3-pointer, because what it did was it forced Virginia to start face guarding him. They were guarding him. The ball was on the opposite wing, and I looked down here, and Cormac's over here, and he had Gertrude in his face. And the ball was literally on the other side of half court. So they weren't going to get a skip pass to him. They weren't going to do that. They were going to have to swing it, and he wasn't there. So what happened is you saw Carolina score more points in the paint in the second half. You saw with so much emphasis on Ryan the helping the helper aspect of the pack line defense was missing at times. And how many times in the last 12 minutes of the game did you see Carolina get a feed in Armando or Harrison that was point blank? Armando had a couple of dunks on point blank feeds right into the lane because there was no help there. And Harrison got one. I believe that was from Elliott. I asked Elliott about what happened. He said, look, they had some breakdowns and we were ready for it. Mm-hmm. And part of the breakdown was because they overemphasized Cormac. And that's not something that they do a lot, but they had to because he was the only dude really scoring for a while. So his threes were huge. He only hit one in the second half, but he had done everything he needed to help this team win by halftime. And I thought he played a good floor game, but those were money shots. And I asked him after the game, I said, you played these guys before. You played in this building before. You don't get many open threes. So when you get them, you got to knock them down. There's a little more pressure on an open shot against Virginia than other teams because, A, there aren't as many possessions, so there aren't going to be as many looks. B, you just don't get that open very often. Mm-hmm. And he had, I think, 3 of those were catch and shoot, boom, threes. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. He is 16. Well, I don't know what he was tonight. What was he from 3 in the end?
6 for 11 tonight.
6 for 11. Okay. He is 16 for 32 from 3 in their last 4 games.
Wow. Yes.
And
50%. Yeah.
I asked RJ and Armando, I said, is this the guy you think you're going to see moving forward? Because I think he was 10 for 21 from Miami through the Virginia Tech game going into the open period, right? Sometimes guys have that open period, they don't come back and they're hot again. It's almost like a restart. Mm-hmm. He was as hot as ever. So he kept it going through the open period. And Armando said that's huge. He said he's just knocking him down like crazy in practice. This is what they think he can be if it's needed moving forward. And obviously they'll need some threes. They may not need 6 or 7 from him in most games, but they needed him today and he delivered. And when I was talking to Cormac after the game about those threes and being open, he's like, yeah, he says, you've got to make them pay. Virginia doesn't leave you open very often. When they do, you got to make them pay. And I think ultimately that was the difference in the game. And I know that 3 or 5 of them were in the first half, but when you're not going to score a ton of points and a guy gives you 18 of them on 6 shots and a night where the Tar Heels hit 16, I think that's huge. And kudos to Cormac. He has been on a roll. He feels good. He doesn't take the bait. I wouldn't say bait, but when we ask questions about finding your groove, he doesn't like to. I don't think he likes to talk about his shooting because for a while we were talking about missing, and now we're talking about him being on a hot streak. It's still reference the fact that he wasn't on a hot streak. That's the competitor in him. If you watch my interview with him, you can almost see the competitor, or you can see the competitor through the interview. And I'll add one other thing about Cormac since I'm talking about him. This is the competitor too. Both RJ and Armando told me that they felt like they got their January mojo back. The mojo meaning the lunch pail stuff that we talked about, the hard hat stuff, the tool chest stuff that was helping them carry them through games in January. They've kind of been absent the last 6 games. They both said, yeah, we got that aspect back. So I asked Cormac, I should have clarified it a little bit better. I said, but do you think you got your January mojo back? He says, no, we have our February mojo, and then we're going to have our March mojo. So that's how competitive he is. He's not going to give. We're not looking back. We're looking forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's the attitude of this team. And we're going to talk about some other aspects of why they won. But they won because they had the right focus, and they did, and they checked enough of the important boxes today to get themselves a W.
Yeah, I mean, even
and it began. I'm sorry, it began with.
No, you're good.
My bad.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. No, I did. Even when you look at the split box scores of the first and second half, what was it, 26-16 at halftime, 10-point lead for Carolina. Cormac's got 15 of those points. It was 28-28 in the second half, AJ. So that lead that Carolina built in the first half truly was the difference, and Cormac Ryan was behind that. I have a running joke too. Getting up by 10 on UVA is like getting up on 20 against anybody else because of how slow they play offensively and how bad they are offensively at times. So I'm obviously joking, of course, but a 10-point lead in Charlottesville at halftime is major. And again, Cormac Ryan was absolutely integral to that lead. So yeah, major credit to him. He looked like a guy who really wanted that streak to end today. But let's move on a little bit, AJ. Let's talk about defense a little bit. I know I'm going to sit here and we're going to sit here and talk about how Carolina defended the 3 well, which I think they did. UVA was just 2 for 14. I know UVA is not a prolific offensive team by any means. Statistically, it's a fact. But again, you have to give Carolina some credit for that because I do think they contested a lot of those threes, and they didn't let UVA really get to the rim a lot either. I know UVA, it seemed like some points that UVA did score were some poor rebounding by Carolina and kind of putbacks after that. There were a couple of instances where Carolina just didn't get a defensive rebound and UVA ended up scoring off of it. But 10 blocks for the Tar Heels tonight. They didn't let UVA really get to the rim much either. So overall, we can talk about, how positive a performance it was from Cormac in that first half and Carolina as a whole. But I think when you break it down a little bit, you got to give credit to Carolina defensively. And I don't know if it was you that asked Hubert in post game or somebody else, but somebody asked Hubert about defense, and he seemed like he was relatively pleased with Carolina's defensive performance tonight. So talk to me a little bit about that as someone who was in the arena, 10 feet from the court.
The two keys defensively, the two top things on their to-do list was to limit the threes. And they're a good three-point shooting team. They're not prolific offense, but they shoot 38% from three.
It's not bad, yeah.
They're one of the top three-point shooting teams in the country, and it's a part of their efficiency. And if they get that going, then the drives open up. The drives from McNeely, the drives from Beekman, and they weren't even taking threes for a while.
I know.
Carolina really did a nice job running them off the three-point line. Did a really nice job with that. And then the other thing was not letting Beekman get to the rim. They defended Beekman well. Carolina blocked 10 shots.
I know.
Blocked a lot of stuff around the rim. Jalen Washington blocked 4 in the first half, and Armando swore to me. He said, man, one of them was a bad call. He should have had 5. So Armando thinks they had 11 block shots. And I'm going to go with Armando on that one because that one foul call on Jalen when he probably should have had a block shot. Armando was on the bench at the time with the 2 fouls. That's the most animated I've ever seen him over a call he disagreed with ever. And I've covered, I don't know, how many games he played? I've covered
a lot.
150 of his games, I guess it is. So, I thought that defensively they did a really nice job. UVA got some buckets in the second half, and they can score quickly. UVA, when they're getting those open threes, when they're going right wing with a 3, left wing with a 3, right wing, and it's McNeely and Beekman and some of those guys, they can ring. Groves can hit threes. And Rhodey, I'm not a big fan of Rhodey's game, but he can hit threes too. But I think Carolina, with Cormac hitting the threes and them running UVA off the 3-point line, this was a game that if you're a UVA fan, you had to look and see, wow, this is not shaping up to our advantage. And UVA never really got it going. They got some points in the paint. I thought there was a period in the second half where Carolina didn't box out well. Carolina allowed some putbacks, but I also thought they were trying to keep from committing fouls and keep UVA from going to the line because they had a decent lead. And I just think the approach was a little bit different, although there were a couple of totally missed box outs. Minor had 2 buckets on absolute box outs.
12 points and 10 boards for Minor tonight. He had a lot of those putbacks.
And I know that UVA is what UVA is, and I understand what Tony's trying to do. And if he has the right personnel, it can be an absolutely beautiful offense. He doesn't have the right personnel with this team. He's got a few guys, but if you look at that roster, that ain't Ty Jerome, man. That ain't. That's none of those guys, okay? He doesn't have Malcolm Brogdon on this team. I mean, hell, he doesn't even have Kihei Clark anymore. So
I know.
They don't have that kind of team, so the offense can really be abysmal at times. They've had 3 straight games where they failed to score 50 points now. It's pretty ugly, pretty gruesome. So they, at one point in the first half, missed 22 of 23 shots. They missed 13 straight shots. Then they got a dunk when Carolina broke down defensively, and then they missed 9 straight. So the only only time the ball went through the rim, the cylinder, in a 15.5-minute span out of 23 shots was a dunk on a breakdown.
Yeah.
They couldn't buy a bucket. Now, some of those that they missed were open shots. I thought McNeely missed a couple mid-range shots that he hits a lot of the time. That's a big part of his game. But I thought Carolina got into their heads. I thought Carolina got into the heads of the crowd here. There were some questionable calls that didn't go UVA's way, and it frustrated everybody on that side. Tony was as animated as I've ever seen him. There were a couple times where he pointed up to the scoreboard, scream at the rest because they'd show the replay, and it looked like a call that probably went Carolina's way, and everyone was just going berserk here. And you could really feel the frustration. It didn't feel like elitist Virginia, which it often does here. And I don't say that as criticism. I say that as a compliment because they're so confident in this building. The fans lean back and sit back and they know they're gonna pull the python on you and strangle the air out of you, squeeze the air out of you and beat you. And it didn't happen today. And it didn't happen today because the Tar Heels got those threes by Cormac, as we said. And they made a bunch of other plays too, especially late. And defensively, they didn't let Beekman go off. They didn't let him get into the rim, and they didn't give up a lot of open threes. So that you don't have to check 500 boxes against a team like this, because the way they're built, if you could stop A, B, and D, C isn't going to be enough for them. And it wasn't enough today. So credit Carolina for its defensive approach and execution.
Yeah, it was 21-8 Carolina in the first half at one point, which is obviously a 13-point lead for Carolina. And like UVA had 8 points. I mean, Carolina was leading in the first half by more points than UVA had in the game at that point.
Well, Cormac Ryan was outscoring them for most of the first half.
It's tough, man. Like I said, when it works, it's been great for UVA, but when it's bad, it is. I feel for UVA fans having to watch that.
And this is not, and this is a UVA team that's quickly heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from the Tar Heels, because they had their own psychological battles to get to work through coming up here and winning. And I'll throw a footnote. It's pretty ironic. It was kind of funny. I saw Tyler Zeller in the press room, and someone that works here, I guess, looking. They said, "Man, look how tall that guy is. Who is that guy?" And I'm thinking, I wonder if he's been back here since 2012. He's scored a winning basket in 2012. So I asked Steve Kirshner after the game. He said no. He actually asked Tyler. Zeller had not been in this building since Carolina last won. So Tyler Zeller is the magic potion. It's also funny. The bus driver, the team's bus driver, asked them if they were going to end the streak. The streak could become this is the longest losing streak
the
team in their building ever for Carolina. So I do think that's noteworthy, and it'll be something that I write about. And I asked Hubert about it at the last question of the presser, and he laughed, and that laugh is relief. You don't have to ask about it anymore. It's a non-issue now.
No, it's big. I mean, it was 12 years. I mean, it's a long time, dude. It took Carolina 9 games to win one. I mean, and this was the 9th game today. So yeah, it's really amazing when you think about a blue blood program like North Carolina having such a bad streak at a team in any team in the ACC. But I know UVA has been really good over the past 10 years. Got to give them credit, but still.
They went 4 straight years not even scoring 50 points.
They've got absolutely demolished.
The 2017 team scored 43 points in this building, and 5 weeks later cut down the nets.
I know. It's amazing. I mean, it's been a wild streak. So I know Carolina fans are relieved. And I put some on Twitter. AJ said, I don't want to hear any complaining. I don't want to hear anything. Just enjoy the win. It's been 12 years. Just enjoy it and keep it moving. We'll see what happens on Monday night.
Shouldn't complain about this at all, man. They got this out of the way. This is no longer in their path. It's out of the way.
You wouldn't be surprised because it's social media and message board, but you'd be surprised at some of the complaining I saw today. I was just enjoy the win, man. It's
they should have been here and watched. UVA is so good defensively.
Yeah.
At one point, I commented to someone sitting next to me. I said, it's like they got 16 arms.
Yeah.
You cannot, unless you break them down. They either break down or you do something until you throw them off, which happened the second half. I asked Elliot Cadeau about that. I said there were a couple times Armando's wide open, and he saw it each time, to his credit. And he said he had never played a defense even close to this in his life before. And they were working it when they started finding higher and higher percentage shots. And that was a grind to do that. You got to watch this team and this UVA team in person, especially here, to appreciate what it takes to get a win in this building, especially as jazzed up as they get for the Tar Heels, man. They don't like them here. It's a boo fest. Trust me.
Trust me. I believe that 100%. But
you've been here for a game before.
I was here the Cole Anthony year, but I don't remember Armando's first year. But I don't remember if Cole Anthony played in that game. I think he might have actually. I think he did, didn't
he? Maybe he didn't. No,
was that the game that Armando was questionable? Maybe I feel like there was something.
Yeah, because Armando got hurt against Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Questionable, and that was when Jeremiah Francis and Anthony Harris made their debuts. Remember them?
That's what it was. Yep, I remember that. I took pictures of that game, so I still have photos somewhere on my computer from that game.
I can't remember what the next games were, but that was an early December game when the ACC started, when they went to the 20-game schedule, and
they got destroyed.
That was that stretch they lost at home to Wofford and Carmichael, and they went to Gonzaga, and I'll never forget, I'm on the baseline at Gonzaga watching the Tar Heels warm up, and one of the local TV guys comes over to me and says, are they really this bad? Are they really bad? Pretty bad.
They were pretty bad that year. Yeah.
I saw him in the press room after the game. He said, "You were right. They're pretty bad."
Yeah. It feels like 10 years ago, to be honest with you.
I know this is totally unrelated. We've completely sidebarred here, but you know who the two players we got to talk to outside the locker room that night in Spokane?
Who?
Jeremiah Francis and Anthony Harris. We didn't get B-Rob because he got hurt early in the second half and didn't play the rest of the way.
It really genuinely feels like an eternity ago, and Armando Bacot was on that team. Armando Bacot was on that team, AJ. Like, what are we talking about? Like, come on, man. It's just unbelievable. Pre-COVID, too, which we're not going down that rabbit hole. But let's end this one real quick. Last thing, you said a second ago, kind of a grinded out win, and that's what I wanted to hit on last is a rugged win, I think, is a language we chose to kind of describe this one, breaking the streak as well. And you had individual performances from certain guys that necessarily didn't play great, but Armando Bacot grabbing boards in the second half, making important baskets in the second half, finishing strong around the rim. RJ had a big steal in the second half as well down the stretch. Again, it wasn't a vintage performance by any means. You're not going to go watch this tape and play it to a bunch of young campers on the fundamentals and offensive efficiency and how to just be absolutely amazing on offense. But again, Carolina came to Charlottesville, place they haven't won in 12 years, place they hadn't won in 9 games, this being the 9th one, and they find a way to win. They end up winning by 10 points. And again, I said it a second ago, AJ. I said, I don't want to hear any complaining from fans tonight. This is a win you should enjoy. And I even joked, heck, man, if you want to rush Franklin Street, go ahead. I know it's never going to happen. I'm absolutely joking on that. But if there's any reason to rush Franklin Street, AJ, you rush it tonight, right? Come on, guys, 12 years. A long time ago.
Just don't run people over like the Wake Forest students.
Yeah, man, we could talk about that for a few minutes.
Actually, I think you do show this film to 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 16-year-olds.
How to play defense, maybe?
No, it's how to just will yourself to a win. Armando's rebounds in the second half, the last 10 minutes, he played 26 minutes in a low possession game and had 13 rebounds. Mm. Armando was great today. Great. His defense, his recovery, he affected so many shots. I think he may have gotten credit for 2 blocks. He affected a lot of stuff. I thought his movement, his offensive rebounds, and then not going up to score, but recognizing the importance of trying to get something out of it, kicking it back out. And I think he had 2 on one possession, or maybe he and Harrison each had one. They end up getting points on that possession. That possession lasted 56 seconds. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And I think that is what you show, because, finesse alone isn't going to win you a championship. You've got to carry a lunch pail out onto the floor and to be able to win a national championship. 2017 was often a breathtaking team, but that title game against Gonzaga was hardly a work of art. It was terrible shooting. It was very physical. It was a lot of rebounds, and it was one team outworked the other. Mm-hmm. That's what ended up happening. Joel Berry was the MLP, and he shot like 38% from the floor. So that, to me, is the championship fiber. They showed that today. I think you do show film of this to kids who think that basketball is all about dribbling around, shooting in their backyard. There's so much more of it. Because even the best players, if it's a 40-minute game, the best players may have the ball in their hand unless they're a point guard for a minute.
That's a good point.
So what are you doing? What are you doing the other 39 minutes? That's where the Tar Heels won this game, because they were, for each player, they were outstanding when they didn't have the ball. Mm-hmm. They were very good defensively. They hit the glass. Ingram, like you mentioned, with 10 rebounds, didn't get many shots off. Every time he tried to get something off in the lane, like there were like 19 people on him. Mm-hmm. It seemed like that, but he never got flustered. He had that loose ball situation in midcourt right in front of where I'm sitting right now that he didn't get to, and he just pops up, says, okay, let's go play D. So I think that is why you do show this film. And I believe that I was on a show in Virginia yesterday with my good buddy Ed Lane, and he asked me, the last question he asked me, he said, okay, where do you put this game in terms of importance on North Carolina with the next season? The season kind of breaks down in increments. They had the open date. He said, how important is this game to sort of shift their nose in the direction that they need to have it going into March? I said, it's really important depending on how it plays out. If it plays out and they don't play well and they get strangled and they shoot 29% and they lose by 10 and don't hit 50 points, then that's a bad sign. Now, they only scored 54, but let's remember what it took to get that 54 and the fact that this team was so invested in the other aspects of the game. So grabbing that January ruggedness aspect of mojo and bringing it forward to now after the way the last 6 games were. And with this stretch they have coming up at home against Miami State and Notre Dame, then they go to Duke. I think this sets up really well for them. And I think that this is the game they needed coming out of the break. This is the challenge, the task that they needed in front of them. They had a good week of practice, clearly. They executed the things they wanted to execute today on the defensive end, and they did enough offensively. So we'll see Monday night. They play a team that looks like it's thrown in the towel, basically. It's unfortunate because there's a lot of talent there, but they're banged up. But Miami still has dudes that can score, and they will challenge Tar Heels to defend Monday night. And this will be another one of those, do you get a little fat and happy like after Duke, or do you continue this and carry all this stuff and dump it on the floor in the Smith Center Monday night and ride that to another win with more finesse, with more scoring? They should score against Miami. So I think it's a fantastic way to play on February 24th when March is right around the corner, because all this kind of stuff they're going to need to march through March. March through March.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, you're going to have to grind wins out like this if you want to compete and potentially win a national championship. Just make no mistakes. Look at every national championship Carolina's won. There's always, even the 09 team had that game. It was against Arkansas, I believe, when they had to grind it out. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of games
17
like that.
had to do that. 09 kind of beat everybody up pretty good. They had to battle Oklahoma in the regional final.
Excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. That game was a grinding out game.
I think they had a little bit of a tussle for a while with LSU in the second round, but their opponent was themselves in the end. They were so much better than everybody else.
Yeah.
17 had Arkansas. They're down. They had that 12-0 run. They closed that game 12-0, and they needed to. Joel with the ankles and all that junk. Remember that? That was a constant story. I wrote Joel's ankle 75 times in about 3 weeks during that period. I told myself I'm never going to write about Joel. I told him, I said, don't hurt your ankle next year, man. I don't want to write about it.
Something about point guards for Carolina hurting ankles during national championship runs, isn't it? It's like a thing for them for some reason.
I don't think Elliott wants to hurt his ankle.
I was about to say, if that happens in April, don't be too worried about it. But that might be an omen for a national championship right there. No, God forbid that happens, of course. But
this group, I don't think would handle that as well. Maybe the other way.
Yeah, you're probably absolutely right on that. But we'll go ahead and get out of here, AJ. I know the cleanup crew is probably going to kick you out of that seat in a few minutes anyway. So
I thought one guy was going to.
He was right behind you. He was right behind you.
He was talking to me. It's like, I know I'm using my laptop, so
yeah,
but still.
They could care less about what we're doing.
But he didn't, so we finished.
Yeah, man, we banged it out. I thought it sounded pretty good as well. So I know Carolina fans will be enjoying this one, as they should. Again, ending the streak. It's over. Been 12 long years. It's actually interesting. Last thing I'll say, AJ, 12 years to the day tomorrow, funny enough. February 25th, 2012 is when last time Carolina won. February 24th today. So 12 years to the day tomorrow, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. So just thought I'd throw that little nugget in there as my stat right there of the day, even though it's, I guess, not really.
One other stat. But Kirsch came in and told us this in the press room. The last time they won a game, this was the fewest points Carolina scored in a win since 2012.
Oh, wow.
They scored 53 that game.
You got to love it, man. You got to fitting, put it that way. It's very, very fitting. And it's a great way to end this podcast, AJ. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. 54-44 win over UVA for the Tar Heels. Again, 21-6, 13-3, and a pretty good day for North Carolina fans, obviously, with Duke losing to Wake Forest as well. So enjoy your Saturday nights, enjoy this one, and enjoy your Sunday as well. We appreciate you watching. Head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com. Check out our YouTube channel too. All the press conferences from tonight will be up there, but go to TarHeelIllustrated.com for all your post-game coverage from tonight's victory over the Cavaliers. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. See y'all next time. Thanks.